Okay, welcome back, everybody, for the start of the final session today. I'm Caroline Phillips from Medscape Medical Affairs. I'm joined on the panel by Toon from AstraZeneca and Christina and Daniel from Baere. The topic for our conversation this afternoon is uniting commercial and medical behind a shared vision and crafting your organization's voice. Before we start, though, I just want a show of hands from the audience. How many people in here remember a world before MSLs in pharma? Okay, I'm going to put my hand up too, because I do. And what we're talking about here is a move potentially away from that model where we've got commercial and medical completely separate to a much more aligned voice with the customer. So I'm going to ask my first question of Daniel. Can you share some of the reasons why your organization decided to move towards this more aligned approach?
Yeah, glad to do so, and hope we get everybody back from the beautiful weather outside. So at Baere, the insight, of course, comes from the customer. There's kind of two directions from where we were coming. When we are trying to come to a more unified approach. One is clearly, of course, customer feedback, saying that a disjointed approach, of course, different touch points, different messaging is not what customers prefer. So that we have gotten quite a bit of feedback on that side. The other one is also a little bit of a self-serving one, which is you also eventually look at your efficiencies, right? So that sending different people with different messages to the same customer isn't the most effective and efficient approach. And so the whole topic of orchestration has come up, the whole topic of, as we say, omnichannel has developed, and to find the efficiencies in there was the second objective. And so trying to put sort of the necessary, which is the efficiency, together with the good, makes, of course, the joint approach the way to go forward for us.
Okay. And from AstraZeneca's perspective, too, was it a similar set of rationale?
Similar sets, and also, like, I think most of us, we're trying to shift from being very product-focused into being really customer-centric. And to be customer-centric, obviously, we need to deliver a seamless experience, which means across our medical and commercial interactions. So it's really trying to make that shift into a more customer-centric voice and meeting the customer expectations. Now, that's one side. There's the expectations from our customers. But there's also the capabilities that are available today. So basically, we can do it, right? We have data sets that we can use for insights across commercial and medical. We can synchronize messages. We can provide insights from commercial into medical and vice versa. But still, we're not yet successful at doing that.
Okay. And we've obviously talked quite a lot this morning about the potential advantages of such an approach, but I think we've also identified the fact that it's not easy, it's not straightforward. Talk to us a bit about some of the challenges that as organisations that you're starting to encounter with this sort of approach.
I would say the first challenge, and what we've seen that we need to approach different, is how can we really provide value to the HCP and patient as a trusted partner. So not go and approach the way we communicate with the customers from a more selfish pharma industry perspective, not go and talk Bayer is presenting X number of abstracts and we did these studies. See it more from a collaborative approach to say that we collaborated with Professor X in this study, and we show you the results from that collaboration. So that was a change in mindset and a bit of a shift in the way that, all the communication, the materials we put out there have to be a bit more customer-centric and not pharma-centric. That was a very big change that we had to approach. And I would say see it more from a holistic healthcare point of view, and how can you as a pharma industry be a trusted partner and understand what your patients and HCPs need. So that talks a bit about the first challenge, I think. we discuss a bit more.
Yeah, I think Toon that's certainly quite important. The other aspect that maybe goes along with that is, and Toon just touched on the topic of data, right? So what we have tried end of last year we had a firewall between CRM data from medical side and from the commercial side, where for compliance reasons, we weren't able to look at each other's data. So we have investigated that a bit more. That was, of course, a huge hindrance, and you just pointed to it too, that if you don't do that, that's a hindrance. And so we have identified ways to take down that firewall. We have experimented it, we have done some pilots around it, and it's proven to be quite possible to do without breaking any huge compliance rules or creating huge havoc in the organization. And so that is one sort of way that we're trying to overcome that data challenge, but to basically put the seed into the cross-functional teams. Okay, you can look at each other's data, and then hopefully they can get joint learnings out of that. And that then hopefully is a sort of pushing them forward in this holistic customer voice.
But culturally, that's a really big change, isn't it? To work in a much more collaborative way without the typical silos that we see. From AstraZeneca's perspective, how have you tried to tackle that? Or what's the kind of feeling internally about it? Are people up for getting past that scenario, or is it resistant?
No, not at all. Not at all. We're organized in silos, and we're still struggling to bridge the gaps between the silos, right? So you're working with different individuals with different objectives. I think 3 years ago, when we kicked off a big program, trying to bring the two worlds together and solve for it. After a couple of weeks, we really struggled to keep the medical teams on board, so we went on sidetrack. So I think at AstraZeneca we haven't solved yet for those different team silos yet. We're still trying, but haven't solved for that yet.
Okay.
And maybe we can just mention a bit the change now for Baere. I think Saskia mentioned it in the morning session. It's still an experiment. We're just moving there, so we can't really share results. But I think it's news to everyone that our organization is changing. And what happens is that now we have a global commercialization organization where basically medical and commercial sit under the same business unit, under the same organization. And by that, we're hoping that we can break the silos and actually have product-centric teams around the IPT, where different functions, whether it is medical or commercial, can be put into that IPT team and help out from their different functional point of view, but just as one product and IPT approach. So that is a way that we're trying to break those silos. We're just embarking on that journey, of course, so we just have to wait and see how that works. And also the fact that we can work in 90-day cycles. So not just, bringing all these cross-functional team together, but really setting boundaries on the key outcomes and the key outputs to say, we want to solve this customer challenge. What is that we really want to solve, and can we achieve it in 90-day cycles? If it's not a 90-day cycle, maybe we need 3 cycles of 90 days, but we really want to be very concrete with the outcomes by the end of those cycles that the cross-functional teams will work on.
I want to share one quick example. So that's what we do at the global level, where we're kind of bringing medical together with commercial, and hopefully that kind of, the fish always stinks from the head, right? So hopefully that sets the right picture in terms of not stinking. What we also are seeing, and I want to make a connection to what the gentleman from Putnam Minizio said earlier about new roles. I think it was his third pillar. We have countries, so the bottom-up development is that we have countries who are experimenting to actually put the customer-facing roles together. So trying to have a hybrid role between a medical sales representative and an MSL, and bring that together in one role, sort of a super customer engagement specialist, or how we call that. Not simple, very difficult, as Toon has said. We have a number of pilots ongoing in different countries. And they're all a little bit different because they try to cater to local needs and compliance rules or compliance perceptions. Too early to say if this is going to work. I liked what Inizio was saying there about those new roles. Definitely something I think that we as an industry have to try and experiment around to see how we can bring break the silos, bring even the roles together and talk with one voice to a customer.
Okay.
Sorry, on breaking the silos in our oncology business units, they're making the shift from being organized around brands, from being organized around disease, and maybe even in the longer terms around customers. And I think that's a potential approach where you can break the silos and as one team work towards the same goals, trying to solve for customers instead of each looking at what their individual team objectives are. So that's an interesting route.
And just thinking a little bit more about the separate sort of commercial and medical departments and bringing them together, what kind of strategies are your organizations using to try and build open communication and trust between those two sort of crucial areas within pharma?
I think one was mentioned by Christina earlier, which is, I mean, it's been around for a while, right? Integrated brand teams, cross-functional teams. I think it was mentioned this morning in the presentation that, it's kind of an evergreen. This is still true. We still need to work more towards that. And we are most recently taking another approach, trying to give it another spin. I think one other practical thing that I have seen working, and we're now trying to replicate it, is goes back to what Toon brought into the discussion, the topic of data. So we are trying to, from a strategic perspective, to implement one customer experience measurement or customer experience feedback mechanism. So we have one shared tool between medical and commercial, where we empower the countries and the different product teams and customer teams to regularly get feedback in terms of net promoter score and customer satisfaction score from customers. And we do this intentionally only as a cross-functional approach, going into the countries, really setting this up cross-functionally, because of course the customer doesn't care from where buyer comes. And so far we have seen that had initially good results, that the teams came together because they were talking about the same facts, the same learnings, the same feedback from the customer, and that they could sort of unify behind that. And so that maybe relatively technical approach of having a data tool to select, to collect NPS had actually a quite good sort of people effect as well, mindset effect to bring people together. Was quite interesting, and we're trying to replicate it now.
Okay.
Another example, sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Another example when it comes to building trust as a equal partner for the healthcare ecosystems that we can approach, and we have an example on that, is digital and digital health. So one of our focus areas is prostate cancer, and the team was really brainstorming to understand how can we provide a solution for patients to manage better their condition, feel more empowered to take, the treatment into their own hands. And the team collaborated with a startup in LA to develop an app for prostate cancer patients. And we piloted this app and we launched it in Spain in multiple sites. Actually, the data are available. We presented it at ASCO this year in January. And what we saw by this collaboration, where we basically, really work together with the patients locally, but also the PIs and the clinics, even the clinical nurses and the specialists, oncology nurses in the centers, was that when we launched it, we saw that the net promoter score, and you might think that, oh my God, elderly patients will not use an app. How can a 90-year-old, 80-year-old patient with prostate cancer would use an application? And we were very surprised to see 95% compliance across the 5 months using the app. And also a very high net promoter score of 4.5 out of 5, which, I mean, I don't know if you know, the NPS of Amazon or other apps is around 4 or 3.7. So we saw that this app was not branded. It was, just monitoring managing basically and monitoring the side effects of the patients and responding quality of life questionnaires. And we saw that both the patient was happy using the app, but also there was very good feedback from the physicians and high perceived usefulness of using the app. So that is just a case study of how we can provide value, not just through branding our products, but really providing value to the patients and the HCPs.
So your feeling is that this approach is definitely going to yield some positive results for you as an organization.
And we're scaling up this solution. I was very happy to see the presentation earlier today by Merck in the UK. So it seems like the whole industry is shifting into that approach, and it was really exciting to see that.
Nice. So Toon, what advice would you give any other organisation that's embarking upon this transformative process?
Big advice, yeah. I don't think there's one advice. I think we're all struggling with the silos and the challenges. So I think there clearly needs to be leadership endorsement, because we can all have clear plans and the best ambition to do it in the right way. But if our leadership doesn't really help us to drive towards one common goal, then we won't be successful. So I think do it with your colleagues from the start, have a clear plan from the start, clear ambition, and then share goals and track those goals against what is really valuable for your customers. So really try to solve for a customer experience.
Daniel?
Yeah, I go back to what I said, sorry to be repetitive, but I think also the speaker earlier from, I think Teva was saying that data is sort of the foundation or the seeding point, right? And I would say that can be here true as well. So if you make data, transparent across commercial medical, they look at the same set of data, I think that can be a huge catalyst, so to say, to instigate sort of different thinking and different behavior in the teams. One of them, of course, only.
Okay. So the conversation has been very much focused around sort of internal change to deliver this, but ultimately we're all here to deliver change for HCPs and patients. If you had to give a sense of how this will impact ultimately the experience for a patient, what are your hopes for this kind of approach in terms of what it will deliver?
I think that in the end, we hope to actually fill this buzzword of customer experience with some life, right? I think, as Christina and Toon both said, we need to come together to better understand what the customer actually wants from a holistic perspective. And so hopefully the customers feel that, and that leads to them having a better experience with the company, not only with one product. Having said that, that's still the verdict is still out. The jury is still out on this one, but that would be the idea that we hopefully achieve.
Okay.
And eventually better patient outcomes. I think we're all striving for that, right? So we need to have that in mind whenever we're planning for any, customer engagement activity, and really start with the mindset of what does this, the patient or the HCP need. So if we start with that in mind, hopefully, we can approach it and achieve better outcomes.
Thank you. Okay, so we have just 3/4 of a minute left. Are there any questions from anybody in the audience on this topic?
Seems it was crystal clear.
No.
It seems like it would be.
No hands.
Okay.
We're almost as blinded here as we are
You
outside.
actually
by
can't
the
see,
sun,
yes,
but,
it's way too
yeah.
sunny outside to see this. All right, well, thank you very much for the discussion, and I wish everybody a great rest of the afternoon and evening. Thank you.
Thank you.